What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Kicking It with Crowder, episode 27 of season 2 so far, guys. So, hey, thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. We're going to talk NFL draft board stuff. Drop my Hot 100 out today, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, we'll go over the Dak Prescott big contract he signed, who was tagged, who wasn't franchise tagged, and then my top 10 NFL free agents heading into free agency. What's up, Zach? Thanks for following tonight, man. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to like down below, guys. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. All right, let's go. What up, Eli? Thanks for watching, man. I appreciate it, bro. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to like. More people can see this. We'll get it out there, guys. So keep going. Let's go. My boy. Should be a good show tonight, guys. What y'all want to talk about? Any draft prospects you guys like that you want me to talk about tonight? I'm going to put my my content of the top 100 I have of the big board. What's up, Josh? I'll put that in the comment section later on so you guys can check it out. Got 6 people on live now, guys. So hey, keep sharing it out. Let's get some more people on here. Stick around for just a few minutes if you got the time, and let me know what you guys want to talk about down below, man. Dak Prescott finally got paid. 4 years, $160 million contract, $40 million a year. What do you guys think about that? Are the Cowboys still gonna go 7-9 next year, even with the big contract? And like 40% of their money is all to Zeke Elliott, Dak Prescott, and Amari Cooper. So we'll see what they can do. You liking your new job down there in Florida, Josh? All right, guys. Well, we got some people on live, so I'm going to go ahead and get started real quick. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to share all that good stuff down below. And let's ride for a few minutes. All right, guys? All right, so Kicking It with Crowder begins in 3, 2, 1. And welcome, everybody. And what's up to Kicking It with Crowder, episode 27 of season 2. Hope you guys are having a great day. Really, thank you guys so much for following along. If you follow after the live, guys, don't forget to comment, like, share, all that below. The NFL draft is 50 days away, guys. I repeat, 50 days away. So I dropped my Kicking It with Crowder Hot 100 big board, my top 100 players. I've studied film on every single one of these players that I have in there. I still have a lot of work to do. I'm going to drop my final top 150 before the NFL draft. I'll also have the mock draft out as well, guys. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. We'll talk about the contract situation of Dak Prescott, the latest news there, and then also which stars in the NFL were franchise tags and which ones were not tagged. So if you were not tagged, basically means you're going to be open to free agency and you're going to be able to sign with any team you want. There were a bunch of guys who were tagged, so they're going to have to stay with their team, get a top 5 average of the position they play, salary for the season. So jam-packed show for you guys tonight. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment down below. Share this out so more people can see it. The content we put out every single week. Guys, we're doing this every single week. Have been for a year and a half now. So don't forget, you can also find me on the Apple. I'm also on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, YouTube, and Twitter, guys. So I'm pretty much anywhere you get your content at. Please do not forget to download today. And let's go. All right, guys. So I want to talk a little bit about my big board. All right. So had a really fun time putting this together. There's a lot of good football players out there. But basically, I'll go over my top 10 guys. Top 10 guys first, and then we'll trickle down the list and talk a little bit here and there about other prospects. So I want to talk a little bit about Trevor Lawrence. Okay. So Trevor Lawrence, guys, he's my number 1 player on the board. He's my number 1 quarterback out of Clemson, 6'6", 225. Guy's going to do wonders in the NFL. Generational type guy. They come out every 10 years or so. Andrew Luck was the last guy that I remember that had this much hype coming into the NFL. So he's my number 1 player, number 1 quarterback, Jacksonville Jaguars. can kind of go ahead and turn that pick in because, I mean, I do not see Trevor Lawrence sliding past 1. So Trevor Lawrence is my number 1 quarterback, number 1 player on the board. He'll be going to the Jacksonville Jaguars most likely with Urban Meyer. So we'll see what that turnaround looks like. My number 2 player, and he's an offensive tackle, sat out the 2020 season. I'm not sure if any of you guys have got to watch any tape on Penei Sewell. He is a outstanding tackle, one of the best tackles to come out in the last few years from Oregon. This guy does not mind getting nasty down there. He'll run block well. He's going to pass block very well. Going to be either could be a left guard or a left tackle in the NFL. Most people project him to play tackle, but he could swing inside and play guard and be dominant right away. Ja'Marr Chase is my number 3 overall player, number 1 wide receiver from LSU. Had the outstanding season last year with Joe Burrow. Decided to opt out this season, did not play, but if you turn the tape on from 2019, Ja'Marr Chase did a hell of a job with the LSU Tigers, and he's very physical. He looks like an Anquan Boldin type receiver, but he's even faster than Anquan Boldin was, and we all know Anquan Boldin was a hell of a receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. Zach Wilson, guys, comes in as my number 4 prospect. Man, the more tape you watch of Zach Wilson, the more you like. A gunslinger. A lot of people kind of compared him in his college career to Johnny Manziel, but he's got a much bigger arm than Johnny Manziel. He's also able to get outside the pocket, create some plays with his feet. And I just like the throws he makes. He throws the ball well down the field, 40 yards or more. Had a very high completion percentage this year when he did throws like that. So, you know, he didn't beat Coastal Carolina this year. That's kind of the knock on him. But at the end of the day, Zach Wilson put up great numbers this year for the BYU football team. And he's going to be a top 2 to 5 pick. I'm pretty set on that. And he's my number 2 quarterback, edging out my number 3 quarterback, who we'll get into a little bit later on, Justin Fields. And my number 5 overall player is a freak matchup nightmare for NFL defenses, Kyle Pitts. This guy, no one could cover him in college, and no one's going to be able to cover him in the NFL. He's the closest thing to Travis Kelce that I've seen. I really like his talent. He's a matchup nightmare. He can play outside. He can play inside. He can run block. He can do it all. He's going to be a red zone nightmare for these defensive coordinators, and I really like him. You know, he could go anywhere from 3 to 8 in the draft. I don't think he slides outside of number 8. But I really like Kyle Pitts. He's my number 5 overall player and my number 1 overall tight end in the draft class. Okay, we'll go down to my number 6 player, guys. Micah Parsons, a guy who was all over the field for Penn State in 2019, decided to opt out. Look at the bowl game, the Cotton Bowl. They matched up against Memphis. He was all over the field, had tackles for loss, sacks, 13 or 14 tackles in that game. This is a guy who is a lot more comfortable rushing the passer than he is even playing linebacker. So he's going to be kind of an outside linebacker, kind of a hybrid guy who can get after the quarterback. Reminds me a little bit of Bud Dupree, who was coming out of Kentucky a few years ago. We all know what he did with the Pittsburgh Steelers this year until he tore his ACL, which was a tough blow to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Micah Parsons, I think he's going to be a guy who can, you know, cover the tight ends and the wide receivers across the field, but he's also going to be able to go in and get after the quarterback. Outside linebacker Micah Parsons comes in as my number 6 overall player. Devontae Smith, guys, comes in as my number 7 overall player, my number 2 wide receiver. And, you know, all you got to do is watch the 2020 tape on him. He is a little slim, 6'1", 165, 175, depending on how much he weighs that day. This is a guy who's going to come in and make an impact early. He'll be a top 5 to top, 10 to 15 pick. Sliding a little bit on draft boards, I think it's just a lot of people are scared away from his size. And he's a great player. I mean, you pop on the tape, he produced all 4 years, had the big catch against Georgia, as a freshman, to win the national title at Alabama. For the Alabama Crimson Tide, first wide receiver to win the Heisman since Desmond Howard. Put up monster numbers this year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Always open, runs really nice routes. Reminds me of a Stephon Diggs type player off the line of scrimmage. If he can just bulk up and get a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical, he's going to be a problem at the next level. My next player coming in at number 8, Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State. He's my number 3 quarterback, my number 8 overall player. And when you turn on the tape, his athleticism stands out. He needs to work a little bit on his progressions down the field. He can kind of get stuck on receiver or running back out of the backfield a little bit. So he needs to kind of work on those progressions a little bit, but the guy has just unbelievable athleticism. Big guy coming out of the state of Georgia. Of course, was at UGA, transferred to Ohio State. He's going to be, anywhere from that, conversation at 2 with the New York Jets to, 4 with the Atlanta Falcons, 8 with Carolina, 7 with Detroit. He's probably going to go in that top 10 range. Justin Fields, wouldn't be surprised to see him be the number 3 quarterback off the board. Could be the number 3 overall player off the board. Just depends on how it shakes out on draft night. And guys, again, we're 50 days away, so get ready for that. My number 9 overall player was a guy who was poised for just a fantastic season this year. Only played in 4 to 5 games because of an injury, and that is Jalen Waddle, wide receiver out of Alabama. This guy was second team all SEC, and he missed like 6 or 7 games. So unreal. When he was on the field, he's very productive. He can return punts. When he gets the ball in his hands, screens, end arounds, plays like that, he's lethal with the ball in his hands. Reminds me a lot of a Devin Hester on punt returns and kick returns. And then, if you get the ball into his hands in open space, he's going to do a lot of damage. He's my number 3 wide receiver. And then my number 10 overall player coming in as my number 1 corner, guys, Patrick Surtain Jr., the second. His dad was Pat Surtain Sr. He was in the NFL, 3-time Pro Bowl selection, or 3-time All-Pro selection for the Miami Dolphins. He was a very nice corner. And I feel like with corners, the genes, they're needed. So they're needed. He's been bred his whole life to be a cornerback. So Patrick Surtain, they didn't throw his way a lot at Alabama because, he was by far their best DB on the field at Alabama. But what he's able to do, press coverage and then, also getting turned around, running towards the football, he's able to make plays. And I just like his instincts. And I think he's going to translate from day one in the NFL. I would not mind at all if the Atlanta Falcons selected him at number 4, or if they were able to trade back to maybe 7 or 8 and get a Patrick Surtain to pair with an A.J. Terrell. I think, for the next 5 years, you're pretty much set in the secondary. So that's my top 10 right now. I'm going to go over a few players who I have ranked outside my top 10, who you're going to be, hearing a good bit about. Caleb Fairley, he's my number 11 overall player, my number 2 corner from Virginia Tech. Sat out the year, but he's got all the tools in the tool shed to play corner. Big guy, can press you. Has great ball skills. Returned an interception last year for a touchdown. Had a couple interceptions in his first game, against FSU a few years ago. So this guy's been put on the map for a few years, and he is going to be a special talent. Look for him, to go anywhere from 9 to 10. Denver at 9. Cowboys at 10. I feel like he's a very good player. Trey Lance, my number 12 overall player. He could go in as high as, Atlanta at 4 or, Minnesota at 14. I could see him going anywhere between that 4 to 14 range. Rashawn Slater put on a show. He front squatted 495 3 times. I saw a video the other day. He ran a 4.840 at the pro day. Another guy who sat out for Northwestern, but he's a freak, can play right tackle, left tackle, could play possibly guard. I got Najee Harris as my number 1 running back, coming in at number 15 overall. I also have Travis Etienne, my number 2 running back, coming in at 18 overall. Got Mac Jones at 20 as my number 5 overall quarterback. So I'm going to post this out, guys, for everyone to see. So be sure to check it out. It's already on my Kicking It with Crowder page, but I will put it in the comments down below. Another guy who I feel like he's going to be a great player at the next level, my number 31 and 32 overall player, Ojulari from UGA. A lot of UGA fans are familiar with him, an outside rusher for the last 2 years for the Bulldogs, a redshirt sophomore, so he's young, can put some weight on, can put some skill on that pass rush, and I feel like he's going to be a really good player at the next level. Nice little DN, outside linebacker, depending on what scheme you put him in. Also, Javonte Williams, he's my number 3 running back. Anytime you put on the tape with him, he's just breaking tackles left and right, very shifty. Reminds me a lot about some guys who can break the tackles and then get loose the yards after contact. So Javonte Williams comes in as my number 3 running back at 32 overall. Really like his tape. Got Wyatt Davis at 34. He's going to play offensive guard in the NFL. Like him. Greg Newsome, my number 5 overall cornerback. Have him at number 40 overall. He ran a 4.31 the other day. So, I mean, Greg Newsome, a lot of these guys you may have not heard of, names that are creeping up a lot of draft boards, and Greg Newsome just pops out to me. What's up, Glenn? Thanks for joining. I got Asante Samuel as my number 4 overall cornerback. He's my number 36 player overall from Florida State. Dad, of course, was Asante Samuel, played for the Patriots and the Eagles. That's another guy who's playing corner, and his dad also played corner. I love the gene factor right there. The genes definitely are going to correlate to a guy being ready. Number 1, when he steps in the NFL, his dad's going to have him prepared, knowing what to do. And then also, they're just good playmakers. I mean, these guys are just good playmakers. You got J.C. Horn, whose dad was Joe Horn for the New Orleans Saints. So a lot of these cornerbacks have dads or who played in the NFL, either corner or other positions in the NFL. I got Landon Dickerson, former Florida State and Alabama offensive lineman. I got him as my number 45 overall player. Eric Stokes went up a little bit on my draft board since he ran that 4.2 40. I got him as number 48 and my number 6 overall corner. And then I'll just talk a little bit about some guys I have here who could be good steals for football teams. I got Jarrett Patterson at 85. He is a really good running back out of the MAC from Buffalo, 5'9", 220. Put out great tape the last 2 years. He reminds me a lot of a Michael Turner type running back who can get through the hole and make one little jump cut, and then he's off to the races. I really like him. I like Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon, I have him one spot ahead at 84. I feel like Trey Sermon is going to go in and compete for carries next year with the football team. And then I got Richard LeCount, guys. Missed some time this year with an accident, but he was a 4-year starter for UGA. Played a lot of free. He's going to play some strong safety probably in the NFL, come up in and hit you. I feel like he's going to be a great, second to third day value pick for whatever team gets him. He's going to be in there, and he's a guy who loves football, has a high football IQ. Kirby Smart speaks very highly of him. So Richard LeCount, I really like what he can do. There's a lot of good free safeties in this draft who can, cover sideline to sideline, and Richard LeCount can do that. He can cover pretty well in the backfield, but he's going to come up and thump you, and he's going to be a great pickup for somebody in that second to third round. And then, Kyle Trask, I have him as my number 67 overall player. Could be a nice little steal for somebody, a nice developmental quarterback down the road. I have him as my number 67 overall player and my number 6 quarterback heading into the NFL draft. And we still have guys, also have a pair of Ohio State linebackers coming in at 49 and 57 with Pete Werner and let me see the other linebacker. And then also Browning. So I got Warner and Browning coming in, 2 top 58 linebackers I got from the Ohio State University. So I have a lot of stuff out there on these guys. I've watched a little bit tape of here and there of all these 100 players I have on my draft board. So this is not my final big board. This is kind of my big board 1.0, guys. Check it out. I'll put it in the comments section after this. It's also out on my website, on Facebook, and on Twitter as well. So check it out, guys. Glenn, I know you missed it, but I got Trevor Lawrence number 1, Penny Sewell number 2, Jahmyr Chase number 3, Zach Wilson number 4, Kyle Pitts 5, Micah Parsons 6, Devontae Smith 7, Justin Fields 8, Jalen Waddle 9, and Pat Surtain 10. So that rounds out my top 10, guys. Be sure to check it out. Let me know what you guys think down below. And who am I missing, guys, out of that top 100? Maybe I have them in my top 100. I just didn't list them. But who are some guys you're really, really excited about for this NFL Draft 2021? 50 days away. So cannot wait for some of the action to get going with some of these trades and some of these players moving up, players moving down. So I'm very excited to see kind of what happens moving forward in the next 50 days. Okay, so hey, give me just a second, guys. I gotta get some water. All right. All right, Glenn. So I got ETN, man. I got him as my number 2 running back behind Najee Harris. So I have Harris at number 15, and then I have ETN as my number 2 running back at number 18 overall. So I got ETN as kind of a mid to late first round pick. I feel like he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. Could possibly catch 40 balls or so next year. His rookie year, can also run between the tackles, has elite speed once he gets through the hole. So I really like ETN. It's just the running backs devalued a little bit now more than it's ever been. So I do have ETN as my number 18 overall player, as my number 2 running back. So I want to talk a little bit about the Dak Prescott contract situation. So it's a contract that has been lingering on for the last 2 to 3 years. Of course, Dak being a 4th-round draft pick, 135 in the 2016 draft, he was drafted behind players such as Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, and he's kind of performed better than them so far in his career. So Dak Prescott, of course, suffers a major injury last year. He signs a 4-year, $160 million deal, $40 million per season, guys, and a $66 million signing bonus. So shout out to not only Dak Prescott, let's shout out to Dak Prescott's agent, Dak Prescott's family, the Cowboys. They're able to get this deal done, especially coming off a very serious injury. He also has the, I'll get into that a little bit, Glenn. He asked about the Deshaun Watson situation. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. So it frees up $15 million worth of cap space right now because he was franchise tagged. So they went ahead and got the contract renegotiated. 4 years, $160 million, $66 million guaranteed. So congrats to Dak Prescott. He definitely earned it. He's a good player for the Dallas Cowboys. And, we'll see what happens, see how this impacts their franchise for the next 4 years. But they have a lot of money tied up in their quarterback, running back, and receiver with Amari Cooper, Zeke Elliott, and now Dak Prescott. So the Dak Prescott saga is finally over with. And Deshaun Watson, man, the sweepstakes are there. There's probably 5 to 6 teams who are really interested in his services. I mean, let's be real. All 30 teams in the NFL are probably interested. All 32 teams are pretty much interested in Deshaun Watson. But I'm saying there's probably 5 to 6 teams who really have a legit chance. I look at those teams with the multiple first-round draft picks. The Miami Dolphins come to mind, and then also the New York Jets come to mind. Now, the Jets aren't the greatest franchise, but they do have the draft capital in the next 2 years with a first-round pick from 2 first-round picks from the Jamal Adams trade this past summer. So the Jets now pick at number 2. And Deshaun Watson, if they can give up that number 2 pick, maybe a next year's first-round pick, maybe a defensive player like Marcus May and maybe, an offensive, maybe Sam Darnold. Maybe you have a deal there with Houston, but we'll see what happens, Glenn. Miami and the Jets are kind of my 2 favorites to land Deshaun Watson. So we'll see what happens there. Brian Flores has the system and the culture down there in Miami figured out. So all they really need is a quarterback to put them over the top. Tua Tagovailoa, of course, was a rookie last year. He showed some promise, but also struggled a bit at times as well. So he'll need to really develop this next season to be able to be their starter, but we'll see. I mean, it seems like they're interested in possibly swapping Tagovailoa and some other picks for Deshaun Watson, so we'll see what happens there. So free agency, guys. Of course, free agency starts next week, but right before free agency, their NFL, the NFL franchise tags, guys, there were 9 players tagged, 10 including Dak Prescott, but they already got his contract worked out. So there's 9 players tagged. There was also some players who were not tagged. So I'm going to go over the players who were tagged, guys. Probably the biggest name out of this whole group was Allen Robinson, wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. Coming off a 3-year deal with the Bears, the Bears just could not let Allen Robinson go. Now, Allen Robinson could be used in some potential trade bait, if they were able to go after Deshaun Watson, or, if he's able to get traded, to a team like the New York Jets has been mentioned for Allen Robinson. Also, the New England Patriots have been mentioned for Allen Robinson. I think Chicago really needs this guy. He's a playmaker, had over 100 catches, 1,200 yards last year. He's a really good player for the Chicago Bears. Another guy who was franchise tagged was Justin Simmons from Denver, safety. This guy has been tagged now 2 years in a row. If he were to get on the open market, he would get a huge contract deal. So Denver's going to have to do everything they can to try to sign Justin Simmons long term. Cam Robinson, offensive tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, he played his football at Alabama in college. He's a guy who was tagged. They don't want to let him get away, so he's tagged. Taylor Moton, a offensive tackle for the Panthers, was also tagged. Not as big of a name as some of these other guys, but Panthers do not want to lose him. The Saints tagged Marcus Williams, safety, of course, who was involved in the Minnesota Miracle play. He's now a 4-year veteran in the NFL and a really good player for the Saints. The New York Giants, guys, have tagged Leonard Williams, coming off 11.5 sacks last year. So he'll be returning to the Giants. The New York Jets have tagged Marcus May, safety, the fourth. He was like the third or fourth graded safety last year, heading in to the 2021 season. Also, Chris Godwin for the Bucs. This was a shocker because the Bucs also have Lavonte David and Shaq Barrett, and they decided to tag Chris Godwin, who would have been one of the best receivers out on the open market. And then Brandon Sharif, or however you pronounce his name, he's an offensive guard for the Washington football team. He has been tagged by them. So those are the 9 players, guys, who were tagged. They haven't, until the summer to work out a long-term deal. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys were already able to work out a long-term deal, 4 years, $160 million. So some players who were not tagged, guys. Joe Thuney, offensive guard for the Patriots. He's now hit the open market. Romeo Okwara, defensive end for the Lions. He's going to hit the open market. Kenny Galladay from the wide receiver, really good wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. He's going to hit the open market. Shaquille Griffin, cornerback, Seattle Seahawks. He hits the open market. Lavonte David and Shaq Barrett both hit the open market for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, they have said they're going to try to re-sign them, but right now they're like $9 million, $10 million over the cap. So they're going to have to do some things to maneuver Lavonte David. My thought is on this, they're going to sign one of the two, either Lavonte David or Shaq Barrett, and let the other one walk. And then Aaron Jones, running back for the Green Bay Packers. Guy was a 5th-round pick out of UTEP. All he's done is produce. Great fantasy football player. He's trying to get paid on the open market. So we'll see if Green Bay tries to re-sign him or, what they're able to do with Aaron Jones, because he is a dynamic player, a dynamic cog in that machine for the Green Bay Packers. I know Aaron Rodgers would probably want to sign Aaron Jones, but sometimes it just comes down to the bottom dollar. They also have A.J. Dillon, a guy they drafted in the 2nd round this past year. So, if Aaron Jones were to not return to Green Bay, I really feel like A.J. Dillon would kind of be a guy to look out for next year as a sleeper pick in fantasy football. So, with free agents starting next week, guys, I'm going to give you, before we get out of here, my top 10 NFL free agents heading into free agency. Now, this does not include players who were tagged. So these are players who were not tagged, who are available. As long as you can pay them, they're ready to come play for your team. Some guys may return to their original teams, but at the end of the day, a lot of these guys are probably going to hit the open market. So I'll start with my number 1 player, a guy who's coming off a Super Bowl. So he's got the Super Bowl with the Broncos in 2015, got a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020, and that is Shaq Barrett, a guy who led the NFL in sacks a year ago. And man, if the Atlanta Falcons were able to somehow work out the money with Shaq Barrett, he would be a great fit in that Dean Pease defense for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to keep dreaming on this one. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers find a way to either sign, like I said, Shaq Barrett or Lavonte David, another guy who's on my list. So we'll see what happens there. Shaq Barrett's going to be probably looking at $15, $16, $17 million range on the open market. My number 2 overall player and my number 1 wide receiver hitting free agency right now, Kenny Galladay. He is a dynamic piece, a big guy who's been paired up with Matt Stafford. Look for him to possibly maybe reunite with Stafford in L.A. if they have enough money. A lot of teams are going to be after Kenny Galladay. Look out for the New England Patriots as well. Another player coming in as my number 3 guy, a little older player, was an all-pro with the Washington football team all those years, and then played with San Francisco this past year. That's Trent Williams. Trent Williams is a great player. Really like his talent. and he's going to be, he's a little older, but he has a couple years left in his tank trying to get paid. This could be one of his last contracts in the NFL. Aaron Jones, guys, my number 4 overall free agent. Like I already talked about Aaron Jones a little bit. He's a great player, can catch the football out of the backfield for the Packers. Really makes life easier for Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Jones, guy who's going to be very coveted coming out of the backfield for some NFL teams. So we'll see where he goes, and if the Green Bay Packers can pipe up and pay Aaron Jones, because he's produced. He's a 5th-round draft pick out of UTEP, and all he's done is produce every year he's been in the NFL. Another Super Bowl champion from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Lavonte David. This is a guy who the last 10 years probably leads the league in tackles, a guy who can get sideline to sideline, cover guys. He can come on blitzes and sack the quarterback, can drop back and cover these running backs and tight ends. He's a really good player. Like I said, Shaq Barrett or Lavonte David, one of them is going to get re-signed for Tampa Bay. The question is, who will it be? My number 6 overall player, guys, John Johnson, safety. I really liked him a lot coming out of Boston College a few years ago. Was a backup his first year with the Los Angeles Rams, but he's really come on strong the last 2 seasons. He's going to get a nice contract, highly coveted guy who I would love for the Atlanta Falcons to go after, but it all boils down to money. So we'll see what happens. And cap space. You don't have cap space, you can't sign some of these free agents. All right, guys. So got a couple more free agents to go before we get out of here. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate all the support. Without you guys, there's no show. So thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. My number 7 overall player, this is a guy who would have been getting paid this offseason if it wasn't for an injury later on in the season with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is Bud Dupree, a Macon, Georgia native. So, I would love to see the Falcons, sign him to a 1-year, maybe $8, $9, $10 million, 1-year prove-it deal, and then try to, sign him long-term in the offseason. But that's probably what he's looking at. He's probably looking at anywhere from $6 to $10 million 1-year prove-it deal. Go out there, prove you're healthy, and go get after the quarterback. Another guy who comes in at number 8, another guy from Georgia, Carl Lawson. I really like his talent, what he was able to do with the Cincinnati Bengals. Liked him a lot coming out of Auburn. Surprised he slipped to that 2nd round. But all he's done is produce ever since he's been in the NFL, and he really had a great season this past year. My number 9 player, Yannick Ngakoue, a guy who was with the Jacksonville Jaguars and was traded to the Baltimore Ravens, and was also, I believe, he was with the Minnesota Vikings this year as well. So a guy who's bounced around a little bit in his young NFL career, trying to get that contract, trying to get, 10, 12 million a year. We'll see what happens. And then my number 10 overall player, Joe Thuney, a offensive guard, center type player who could play a lot of different positions on the offensive line, comes from that New England Patriots background. So, he's been coached up really well. We'll see what he gets on the open market. So some other guys, there's a lot of guys in this draft class, guys. And I'll start with Will Fuller, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, was having a phenomenal year this year until he got popped with a PED positive test, missed the last 6 games. So an explosive guy who can get over the top, averages, 17, 18, 19 yards a catch, been pretty good in his NFL career, but, has dealt with some injury issues and then had the PED suspension. So interested to see where he'll go. He'll be coveted very highly on the NFL market. Juju Smith-Schuster, another guy with the Ravens. I've heard the Las Vegas Raiders could be interested in him. I've also heard the Baltimore Ravens could possibly be interested. Also, the Steelers, I'm sure, will be interested to re-sign Juju Smith-Schuster. Cornerback William Jackson from the Cincinnati Bengals had a really good year this year. Name that's flying under the radar right now. Hassan Reddick, guy who was not signed or franchise tag from the Arizona Cardinals. So we'll see what Reddick does on the open market. Outside linebacker, defensive end type player. Curtis Samuel, wide receiver slash running back slash, a gadget guy, can play all over the field, scat back, slot receiver, outside, inside. Want to see what Curtis Samuel, garners on the open market. Anthony Harris, safety from the Minnesota Vikings, is a free agent. Hunter Henry, big target for Justin Herbert this year with the LA Chargers. He's on the open market. Corey Linsley, all-pro center from the Green Bay Packers. And then Trey Hendrickson, a guy who was a second team. What's up, Jordan? Another guy who was a second team all-pro, trying to get, $14, $15, $16 million on the open market. New Orleans Saints probably are not going to be able to do it. So, man, if the Falcons, who have that connection with Terry Fontenot, who spent all those seasons with New Orleans, I think there's going to be a little bit of that New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons connection this offseason, and you could see some free agents, coming from New Orleans to Atlanta. So, something to watch out for there, guys. The NFL draft is 50 days away, so a lot of coverage, a lot of tape to watch before I'll have my mock draft out. Probably in like a week or so. So my next show will be like an NCAA basketball selection show special where, I kind of do my bracket and, go over probably the top 4 seeds in each bracket, 1 through 4, and kind of give you my, either winner or some, my final 4. So I'll do that. And then the next show after that, I'll probably have my NFL mock draft 1.0, and then I'll have probably a second one before the actual NFL draft. I'll also have one more big board before it's all said and done, guys. So, hey, thank you all so much for joining me tonight. It's been a heck of an episode. Don't forget, guys, to check out my NFL draft Hot 100. I dropped that earlier today. We talked about the Dak Prescott situation, his big contract he got, the top 10 free agents to hit the open market, and who was tagged and who was not franchise tagged this past week. And free agency, guys, buckle up because it's going to be a wild ride for the NFL free agency. And, man, I cannot wait till that happens, guys. So, hey, thank y'all so much for checking out the show tonight. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to like. Share this out so more people can see it. And then, of course, we'll have this out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. We'll probably have that out either tonight or tomorrow, so be sure to check out the great content there, guys. So thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. Kicking It with Crowder, episode 27 of season 2, 76 overall, guys. So thank y'all so much. I'm out. Let's go.